In our case, we're going to pretend that we have certified copies for a Delaware corporation. We've gotten them authenticated by the state of Delaware. We've gone to the U.S. Department of State and gotten them authenticated there. And now we're ready to go to the consulate, and we're going to fill out our G1 form so that we can add that to the documents and when we present them. So this is the form. As you can see, it's in both English and Chinese. And the first thing we're going to do before we start typing is we're going to put caps lock on. The Chinese embassy insists that the documents are typed, they will not accept handwritten documents, and that they have to be in all caps. So number 1 on this form, this is for individual use only. We're going to skip this because we're operating for a company. An individual might get a birth certificate or a diploma authenticated, but that's not our case here. So we're going to move on to number 2. And in the first part of number 2, we're going to fill in the name of our company, ABC Company, Inc. And then we're going to put in the address, 123 Main Street, Baltimore, Maryland, 21201, and the phone number here. Now, you may be wondering, why are we doing this? Because this is pretty simple so far. So not too tough to figure out how to fill out. But the very next question begins the complexity of making sure that the form is correct. Legal representative of the company or organization. So what is a legal representative? Your safest bet is to indicate an officer or a director of the company here. And then you're going to put in, their date of birth, and you're going to present their ID. Now, if you put in the company's attorney, this may be accepted. In the past, it was routinely accepted, but recently we've found that certain consular officers have indicated that it is not acceptable, while others continue to accept it. So you're not for sure going to get it rejected if you put in the name of the attorney as opposed to an officer or director, but it's always a possibility. So we're entering Joseph D. President and his date of birth, and then the next thing is the type of ID. So the Chinese embassy will accept a driver's license or a passport as the type of ID. Now, if it's a passport, you're just going to put in passport, and then you're going to put in the passport number for the number of ID, and you're done. If it's a driver's license, in addition to putting that information in for the license, you also have to indicate on the side, citizen of what country. So you can see here we've got in the red square, U.S. citizen. Now you don't have to add a red square and put it typed in. This is the one place where you can actually handwrite on the form along the side. You can put U.S. citizen. So now that we've got all the information about the company and the applicant, we're going to go on, and in number 3, we're going to check the what we're presenting for authentication. In this case, it's business documents. And number 4, the purpose of it, which we're going to say is business and trade. The second part of number 4 is the destination of legalization, and here you have to enter both the city and the country. So we need to put in Shanghai, China. Now remember, Hong Kong and Macau, we would not be filling out this form. They would get an apostille, which is a much simpler process. Another thing you want to make sure you never put on a G1 form or have anywhere in your documents when you're presenting it for legalization is Taiwan. So the People's Republic of China does not recognize Taiwan, and they will reject any request for authentication that includes a reference to Taiwan. So there we've got page 1 of our form done. Now we're going to move on to page 2. So in page 2, the first question, supporting documents. So what they're looking for here is what are you actually presenting to be legalized. And you don't need to put in what the documents are, but really you just need to put in that it's one original, one copy, and then the identification that you are presenting. So in our case, it's one original certified copy, one copy of a certified copy, and a Maryland driver's license. If, for example, we were presenting 5 powers of attorney, we would put in 5 originals and 5 copies, Maryland driver's license. The copies is the number of copies being presented for authentication. So in our case, it's 2. With the power of attorney reference, where there were 5 that I had just mentioned, the number of copies would be 10. So now we're going to move on to processing time. And you'll see we have regular service or express service. Well, this is really a false choice at this point because the Chinese embassy has discontinued express service in April of this year. So you only have the option of regular service right now. Regular service costs $50 and the current turnaround time is about 3 to 5 business days. If you were to get express service, if they bring that back at some point in the future, it's $70. Now, the 3 to 5 business days is what it costs for regular service. But if you're presenting the documents after noon, they don't count that as a day, so that would add another day. Another thing that can add to your time frame is that you are limited to presenting 5 documents at once. You cannot present more than 5. So if you have a large number of documents, you have to consider not only the 3 to 5 days, but the fact that you're going to have to present some of those documents on subsequent days, and it's going to add to your total turnaround time for getting this process completed. Now, number 7 is the agent. That is the person who is actually presenting the documents at the embassy office. If Cogency Global is handling, then our information will go there, and we've sort of put a generic Cogency Global employee in here. If you're asking us to handle it, you would just simply either you can call and find out who it is who's going to be taking care of your documents for you, or you can leave it blank and we will complete that section for you. The last section is to sign in Section 8. And before we get to the signature, though, I do want to point out the date. It is important that you use their formatting for the date. You'll notice it's year first, then month, then day. So with the signature, the applicant is going to sign 2 things. They're going to sign in the top of number 8, where they are declaring that the information that they presented in the form is true and correct, and that they bear legal responsibility for that. The second point of the form where they're going to sign, which is down below, they're basically indicating that they understand what legalization and authentication is. And that is that it certifies the seal and the signature of the last document is accurate. It does not say anything regarding the validity of the underlying document, just that the seal and signature on the U.S. Department of State authentication is accurate. That is the only thing that they are attesting to. Now, this is important. This is not true just for Chinese legalization. This is true for all legalization. It really is just about, is the document being presented an authentic document? Is that seal really the seal of the U.S. Department of State? Is that signature really the signature of the Secretary of State? So once that's done, then the agent would then sign and the document is ready to be presented. Now you do need to provide the original of the G1 form as well as the originals of the documents to be legalized. They will not accept a scanned copy on the G1. It's a bit of an involved process. There's a lot to remember and keep track of. Luckily, not all legalization is quite so involved. Most embassies do not have special forms like this. And if the country is a part of the Hague Convention, then it gets very simple because an apostille issued by the Secretary of State is enough to verify that that is an authentic document. However, when your country is not part of the Hague Apostille Convention, such as China, you do need to make sure that you're complying with the rules and requirements of the embassy because they can choose to authenticate or not authenticate as they see fit. So if you understand all the tips and tricks and how to make it as smooth and easy as possible, hopefully you won't have too many problems with this.